Good afternoon to all of you. So this is the last class for this course. The only thing that remains is just one problem on footing design. I just wanted to tell you how to do it, and this I'll be doing for an isolated footing. Same concepts, if you extend a little bit, you'll be able to do it for a combined footing. Anyway, the material related to design of combined footing I have shared in the team already, so you can read through it, and based on that you'll be able to do your assignment problem. Okay, so as fast as I can, let me try to finish this isolated footing design. It will be a little bit bigger compared to design of column or beam or almost any other thing that you have. And using SP16 also, it's not very direct or straightforward. Okay, there's no specific provision which you can just about directly use using SP16 also. But at the same time, this footing is actually a pretty important design. Most of the problems which occur in a design occurs because of might occur because of bad footing design, because it's not the easiest thing to design as compared to beam or slab or anything. And the other thing is, you need to have accurate values from your geotechnical report for the SBC. So that uncertainty is also there. And for so many other reasons, this is probably the most difficult design that you might have done in this course. But anyway, so that's why I'm restricting. By the way, in exam you will not get combined footing. It's only for assignment. In the test, if you're asked to do any design, you will get only isolated footing. You will not get a combined footing. Okay, and that too only one part of probably one aspect of it I may ask. I may not ask any other, some other aspect, in order to make it short. But anyway, now I will go ahead with the design. So design of isolated footings. Okay. So I have an isolated footing which is below it's below a 300 by 500 column, and this column has 6 numbers of 25 mm diameter bars. So this particular detail is not directly relevant to the design of your footing, but when you detail your footing, the reinforcement in your column will also appear in the detailing of your footing. But as far as design calculations are concerned, this will not directly come into the picture of the design calculations. But anyway, I'm still showing it. The grades are for the footing, the grades to be used are M20 and F415 is what is specified, and the loads acting on it, the factored loads. Okay, so factored axial compression on the footing is 1000 kilonewtons, and there is a uniaxial moment on the footing. So the factored MU is 120 kilonewton meter. Okay. Of course, now another important detail that needs to be given to you is SBC equals 200 kilopascals at a depth of this much. Okay, so basically it's telling you that the footing which you are going to design, you have to place it at least this much depth below the prepared ground, so that you can get at least this much SPC. Okay, this is where this much SPC is available only at this much depth. If you put your footing above this 1.25 meter, you will not get this SPC. Okay, so we have to solve this, or how to perform this particular design. So these details are given, and since we have a moment and axial load, we might also want to probably find out what corresponding type of eccentricity would be present because of these two combinations of load and moment. Okay. One thing that has not been yet considered is this PU is exclusive of weight of footing and backfill. Okay, this is actually this PU does not include the weight of these things. Okay, so if you want to include the weight of this, you just have to assume it. So the general tendency is to assume 10 to 15% of this PU as the weight of this footing plus backfill. Okay, so basically this times 1 point, I'll choose 15%. 10% is also okay, it's just a guess. Okay, it doesn't mean that any one answer is going to be turning out right. So anyway, this I can find out the eccentricity as moment divided by the axial load. So moment is 120. And the axial load inclusive of this weight of the footing and backfill will be 1.15 times of this PU. So 1.15 times 1000, it's kilonewtons, so into 10 power 3. Okay. So once I do this, I get eccentricity is. So for the sake of time, usually my tendency is to write a certain expression and ask you to calculate it. But since this is a bit of a lengthy problem, I am not going into questioning mode so that it finishes in time. But at the same time, no, I hope that you people don't sleep off because of this reason. Still somehow try to pay attention. Okay, so this is the eccentricity that we have found. The next thing, if you remember from previous class, we always look for a condition that we want no tension at the base case. Okay, meaning that if I have a footing, whatever footing that I have, I want to make sure that the pressure distribution is entirely, that it's entirely compressive. Okay, there's no change of strain anywhere along the width of this footing. So that, if you remember, is given when the condition is E is less than L by 6. Okay, so when this is satisfied, then you will have a situation where nowhere on this footing there's any pulling of the footing. Or in other words, my length should be greater than 6 into 104. Okay, which is this is 624 mm. It's actually a very, very small value. Nobody is going to have a footing of only 624 mm length. Okay, it's a pretty ridiculously small number. It won't even be able to take the pressure PU. Okay, so anyway, this E. Now I find that this is the condition that has to be satisfied, and now based on this, I want to find out what is the breadth of the footing and what is the length of the footing that I require. Okay, so if I draw it, so I'll draw so this may be by footing rectangle. Here my column might be there, the 500 by 300 column. Okay, so I need to get some value for this and some value for this. Okay, so if this is the longer side, the column also has to have its longer side along that direction. So this is the shorter side of the footing. So this should also be the shorter side of the column. Okay, so this B and L, usually I take the shorter side as B, longer side as L. Okay, so this is how usually we, it's interchangeable, no problem. So now to find out this, I have to compare my pressure here and here with my SBC and make sure the pressure nowhere along this part exceeds my SBC. Okay, so as I told you, always for footing size, to determine the footing size, use service loads, meaning that these are all factored. I should not use factored loads to find the footing size. So what I do is, whatever I'll just use this 1000. I'll divide it by 1.5. Okay, so 1000 by 1.5 in order to remove the factor. Okay, and then this 15% extra for the extra 15% for the weight, no? So that one divided by area of the footing. So P by A plus or minus. No, actually let me plus only. So plus the moment is 120, so that also has, it's also factored, so I have to divide it by 1.5 divided by m by z section modulus BL square by 6. This should be lesser than or equal to 200. So what the units that I use? Okay, this should be to 10 power 3. Okay, so 10 power 3. This is newtons and millimeters. Let's keep everything in newtons and millimeters. And this will be into 10 power 6. So 200 kilopascal means Newton per meter square. Okay, so 200. You can just make a conversion from kilopascals to so this will be basically 200 megapascals will be Newton per meter square. So I want to convert this to Newton per 3. This is Newton per meter square. So it will be 10 or minus 3. Okay, so I just converted to newtons per millimeter square. Okay, just change into Newton per millimeter square. I hope the conversion is correct. If it's wrong, please just tell me that the conversion is wrong. So basically, I just tried converting kilonewton per meter square to. Okay, just check it whether it's wrong. This is 10 power 3. Below will be 10 power 6. I guess it will be 10 power minus 3. Anyway, so this is the equation that you have to use. And on solving this equation, we'll get an equation in terms of B and Del. Okay, and two unknowns B and Del are there, so you cannot find both of them. Any one of that you can assume. So always assume the shorter dimension. Okay, so you can assume B. So one of the best ways to assume it is to make it by looking at the picture. For example, you have 300 mm column size. Okay, the column width is 300 mm. So this B which you want to use, you may want to make it at least 3 times of it or something more than that. So anyway, for my purpose, I am assuming B equals 2 meters. Okay, of course, this equation has to be simplified. You will have a quadratic. You will have an equation which is in terms of L square and B. Then you can assume B, and you can find out what the value of L should be. If I assume B is 2 meters, I get L should be 2.414 meters. Okay, so this is what you get if you assume B is 2 meters. Okay, that's hoping that I made this right. Okay, so of course nobody can give a length of 2.414 meters, and also therefore this is definitely going to become 2.45 meters. Best thing is to make it 2.5 meters, but anyway, let's keep it as 2.45 meters. So therefore, I probably want to draw it again so that I don't have to keep going up. I'll write once more here because I don't want to scroll up all the time. So this becomes 2 meters, or let me say 2000 mm. 2450. And this is 500. This is 300. So this outward dimensions also is of interest to me. So basically 2450 divided by 2 minus 500 by 2. So that comes as 975. And similarly on this side it is 2000 by 2 minus 300 by 2, which is 850. So this projections also is important to know. Okay. So these projections are also known. Now the next thing is to find the pressure distribution at the base. So this pressure distribution, I'm going to always draw it along the direction of the longer along the longer direction. So if this is 2450, so I'll be drawing my pressure distribution along this particular length. Okay, how this pressure distribution varies, assuming that, so this is P and my moment is acting along this axis. Okay, so it is in that direction that the moment is acting. We will use a different color. Moment acts parallel to this dotted line axis. Moment acts parallel to it. Okay, which means I have a pressure distribution along this direction. Okay, so net pressure Q, I'll call it as QU equals. So basically now I can start using the factored. See, now the size has been decided. Size of the footing. Now from this point on, you will be using the factored loads alone. Okay, you will no longer be using unfactored loads. Unfactored loads is only to decide the size. Okay, so no more you are dividing it by 1.5. You are going to use the entire factored load. So P by A 2.0, which is breadth times length 2.45 plus 120. Let me actually make it into. Let me retain everything in kilonewton and okay, it's fine. Let me retain it in kilonewtons and meters. 120. This is 1000 kilonewton. This is 1000 kilonewton meter. Because the bottom also I have kept in meters. No, the size is written in meters, so I retain the moment also in kilonewton meter itself. So 2 into 2.45 BL square by 6. Okay, here I will use a plus or minus sign, meaning that on the direction which mu causes compression. So you know from your beams that if you have a beam like this and you have a moment acting this way, then this part will be under compression, this part will be under tension. Okay, the same thing. So this side will have greater compression, so it will add on to the P which is supplied. On this side it is under tension, and you'll have to subtract from P whatever pressure is caused by the moment. So that's why it's a plus or minus. So I said Q U max will be nothing but 1000 by this plus 120 by this, that gives me 204.1 plus 60 or 264.1 kilonewton per meter square. And similarly on the other end, for the minimum Q rather, it is 204.1 minus 60, which is about 144.1 kilonewton per meter square. Okay. Here there is a point of confusion which you will get. The confusion that you may have now is, you look at 264 and you look at 200, which is the SBC. You see that this is actually more than the SBC. Okay, and of course, if this is lesser than SBC, we have absolutely no confusion. We are very happy with the QU max which we get. But even though here I got 264, which is more than SBC, at this point it is not actually wrong. Okay, it is not actually wrong because this size which we have decided, 2.414 and 2.4, sorry, 2 and 2.45, which we have decided, it has actually been decided based on a 200 SBC for these service loads. Here I have used factored loads for getting this QU max and QU min. I have used the factored loads over here. Okay, so therefore we are uncomfortable looking at such a situation, 264 and 200, but it is not actually wrong. If you feel a little bit very what do I say? If you feel very uncomfortable by looking at such things, then you will have no option. You just have to increase the breadth and length further, so that you are able to bring factored pressure also below the SBC. Okay. The purpose of calculating this factored pressure is it's basically to decide thickness of footing. Okay, it is to decide the thickness of the footing, meaning how thick should we give the footing. Okay, it is so therefore there is this bit of very disconnected approach where for calculating the planned dimensions B and L, you are using service loads, and for getting the thickness, you are actually using the factored loads or the ultimate loads. Okay, so this is a bit of the reason that I repeat this is because this is a very nice place to get confused. That's the reason that I have kind of repeated this a bit more than needed. Okay, so my pressure distribution look like this. On this side, it is 264. It reduces and becomes 144 here. So I would also want to know what is on the center of this part, what is the pressure. This much I want to know. So this is easily calculated. It's a trapezium. You can just take the difference and find out. You'll find out that this is 264, this is 144. So 60 nice difference is there. You can see that this will be 204.1, the pressure at that particular location. Okay, so this is one part. So you have found the pressure. Next is to check one by one all the design parameters. One is starting with one-way shear. Okay, starting with one-way shear. What you do here is you take the critical section. I'll take black for this. So the critical section for one-way shear is at D from the face of the support. Okay, so this is the face of the support. From there a distance D. Okay. Of course, you can do the same thing for this side. Okay, so the face of the support is here. You can take D from there. So there are two directions, this direction and this direction. I would say that instead it's, oops, I think this side is, yeah, correct, okay. So out of this two, I would probably suggest that we can use one of these directions alone for getting the one-way shear. Okay, so I can go along this direction, or I can choose this direction and I can take it. Okay, so these are my options. Now, what I would rather, the better choice to make among these two is I would take I could probably take this one. 0. Okay. So yes, so which critical section can I take? So shall I take, let me draw it in 3D. So say this is the footing. This is 2000. This is 2450. So if I want to find critical section for shear, should I take, is it better to take this face or is it better to take this face? You want to check the shear resistance of this slab in one-way shear. Which one-way shear direction is critical? Is this direction going to give you a worse result, or this direction is going to give you a worse result? Which one do you want to take?
The shorter ones.
Yes, exactly. Why?
Sir, it will have that shear flow will be there more in that longer.
Okay. I mean, the area, the face of area of the face is smaller, so therefore the shear there will be.
Yes. Yes.
Shear stress there will be more. So therefore that is what you want to take. So checking for this automatically will satisfy the check along the longer direction. Okay. So that's what you can do. So therefore, I would find out. So the thing is to what you need to do is see I have this pressure distribution, but I do not know like at this particular location at this D from the face of the support how much is the pressure, that is not known. So you just have to use the shape and then use the shape, use interpolation between this short side of the trapezium and long side of the trapezium and locate that particular part. Okay, so QU is 264.1. Okay, so this is the pressure is acting. This so 264 point. Okay, actually I should not draw like this. So I've drawn only one part. I've drawn only till D. Okay, so this pressure distribution is actually much longer. Okay. So the pressure distribution is acting. So here it may be 144.1 or something, whatever it is. So I want to know exactly at this location. Okay, I need to know at this particular location what is the value. Okay, and similarly at this location, what the value is. Okay, of course on the other side it's 264.1. So I have a certain distance. So that distance equals. So 264 is the pressure at this particular end. So this is DD. Okay. So I've drawn only till the critical section. So this is the critical section that we are looking at. Okay, this is the critical section. I have not shown the entire footing. So basically, if I find out what this pressure is, then I'll be able to use that pressure to find the shear stress on this particular part. So this side is 264 minus, so it's just a matter of interpolation, 60 into 975 is the projection. So 975 minus D, because this is D, no? So 975 minus D, that is this part, 975 minus D. This is 975 minus D by 2. So, and so this is 975 minus D by 2, let it become so minus D by 2. I don't suppose 2 should be there. And 75 minus D. I think the 2 should not be there. Okay, I think it's a mistake. Okay, divided by. So this this breadth is 1225. 2450 divided by 2. Okay, so that is 1225. Okay, so this thing minus 60 into 60 is the difference here plus 204. So 60. I think it's right. Okay. Okay, so I think it's right. So this will become 240.2 plus the 0.02449 D. Okay, so this is the actual QU, and this QU I say that this is about. So here I have to use some value for D. Okay, I do not have a D is not known to me. It is not been decided yet. So therefore I can keep this as it is, and I can probably assume some D as here it's been assumed as 600. So let me use the same 600 mm. And if I substitute 600 mm into this, I get QU value equals 0.255 Newton per mm square. Okay, 0.255 Newton per mm square. And so if I convert it to shear force, so the shear force will be in this pressure times the face of that area. So 2000 is the length of this face times the area, the width of that face is, it's 975 minus D. Exactly minus D. Yep, then VU1 497,250 minus 510 D. This many newtons. So this is the shear force which acts on this this particular face. This is the shear force, and this has to be compared with tau c. So if you remove tau c, this is the shear resistance of the given concrete and the given for the given percentage of steel. So here also I have an unknown. The percentage of steel in the footing is not known. Okay, so again that also has to be assumed. Okay, you can assume it generally with you can take about 0.25 to 0.4 percentage PT to in order to get tau c for a footing. Okay, to find tau c for a footing, you can assume some range of PT like this. It's not, you not yet calculated it, but this is just again another thumb rule or guideline for you to assume the percentage of steel. Okay, so then for this I get tau c. For this, the concrete is M20. 20, yeah. Concrete is M20. Okay. So for M20 and 0.25 percentage of PT, I have tau c is 0.36 Newton per mm square. So again, VUC is nothing but 0.36, which is tau c, times 2000 times times D. Okay, this is about 720 D. Okay. So again, this and this can be compared. Okay, so this is the actual acting shear force. This is the shear resistance of the concrete with the reinforcement. So just making this comparison 497,250 minus 510D with 720D. So with this I will be able to get that D should be greater than or equal to 404 mm. Okay, should be greater than 404 mm. Okay, so this is one thing. So we'll just retain this with this. Okay, our check is not over because now I have estimated for one-way shear how much should be the depth of the footing. Okay, so this is just one case. Only one-way shear has been seen. You also have to check for throughout shear. Okay, which is your two-way shear. So for two-way shear, the critical section will be a rectangle. It will not be a straight cut, it will be a rectangle. So two-way shear. So again, I'll just draw the critical section for this. It is very similar, except that your critical section distance will be a little different. So it is d by 2 from here, d by 2 from here. So with that, you have to draw a rectangle. So the shear will be all around this particular given rectangle. So that is a two-way shear. The critical section is at d by 2. D by 2 from column face. Okay. So again here I will have to take some. So within this part I have to consider what is the stresses. Okay. So this is what was shown before. Here it is 264. Here it will be 144. This is a 264. Here right through the middle it was 201. Sorry, 204.1. Okay. So one thing is there is shear on this side, and there is some value over here, some value over here. So what do you think is the average of this and this? What is the average stress of the two sides? The average pressure. This and this average, what will it be?
204.1.
It will be just 204.1. So to make it easy, you can just take the average pressure like that. Okay. So the average pressure is 204.1. Okay, kilonewton per meter square. Or in other words, 0.204 Newton per mm square. So now VU2, okay. VU1 is this one represents one way, two represents two way. That's it. No other meaning for that. So it's this one, this pressure, which is 0.204 times. I now have a rectangular perimeter to worry about. So the outer rectangular perimeter, the perimeter of the perimeter of everything around the green color rectangle is 1, and the perimeter of this rectangle will be the next one. So the bigger rectangle perimeter is, sorry, not the perimeter, area, okay, is the whole thing, and the perimeter of this one, okay, it will be nothing but, so this is 300, this side d by 2, this side d by 2, so it will be 300 plus d. This is 500, d by 2 is 500 plus d. So 300 plus d, 500 plus d. So this is the total shear force that will act on the faces. Okay, this is the total shear force that is going to act on okay. This shear force is going to act all around. It's going to act all around these faces. Okay. Or in other words, if I show it in plan, so I have the critical section cut over here. So 0.204 times 2000 times 2450, that is the total shear force caused by this entire area. Then this minus 300 plus d plus 500 d is the reverse direction force which is caused on this area. So you subtract both of them to get the actual shear force acting on this section. Okay, so that is what this is. So this corresponds to, see, for example, in simply supported beam, what do you do? So I've given this. and I say RA, I'm asking you to find shear at one particular location. So basically what do? All that you do is you find the total forces which is acting on one side. Okay, so basically you'll be doing RA minus this W into L. Okay, so this is the same thing is what is being done over here, except that now it's a projection instead of a beam. Okay, that is the only difference that is being shown now. Okay, so this one becomes the 870 into 10 power 3 newtons. Okay, so once again, just like what I did before. So here what we did for one-way shear, we found out the same thing. Okay, so the same thing we did. We found out what is the shear coming from the projection and the shear coming within the critical section. So we are subtracting them, we are getting the total shear force on the one-way shear projection, and then you compare it with tau c value. So the same thing has to be repeated again in a different fashion for a two-way shear. Only thing for two-way shear, there's a slightly extra provision given in IS 456, which says that your tau c for two-way shear can be made as Ks times 0.25 times root HCK. Okay, this is a provision which is given in IS 456, where this Ks is given by 0.5 plus beta, where beta is footing short side divided by footing long side. So 0.5 plus I have here 300 by 500. No, 2000. This is a column side, column by footing 300 by 500. So 0.5 plus this will be 0.6. So this should be less than 1.0. So therefore you take 1 as the value of beta of Ks. Okay, Ks becomes so whatever you get out of this, it should be lesser than 1. If it's more than 1, use 1. So 1 times 0.25 times root of FCK is 20, and therefore tau c becomes 1.118 Newton per mm square. You see the difference. So the tau c which you have for this is only 0.36. This is almost, it's more than 3 times. Okay, you have that much of an advantage in considering this two-way shear enhancement in shear strength. Okay, so this is one advantage that you have when you use this. So the shear resistance of the concrete, VUC, just like what I did over here, I have to use this tau c multiplied by the entire perimeter of this entire, I mean this area plus this area plus this area plus this area. So all these 4 areas I have to add and multiply. So 1.118 times I have 300 plus D plus 500 plus D. Okay, so there are 2 such phases. There's one 300 plus D phase, another 300 plus D phase, one 500 D, another 500 plus D phase. So 2 phases of each. So into 2, and the depth is D. So into D. Okay, which gives about 1788.8 D plus 2.236 D square. Okay, and this will be compared with this 870 which you have. Okay, another thing that you can do is you can either compare this and this and you can calculate D. Alternatively, what you can do is you already found 1 D for one-way shear. Okay, so you have found this. Try substituting this into this equation, see whether it is coming more than 870. So with D equals 404 mm, VUC becomes I get 1088 kilonewton, which is greater than the actual shear which is acting. So therefore, from shear point of view, a 404 mm thickness footing is okay, and I say that this footing I cannot give. For giving 404 is not such a great idea, and if you want to be safe, you also have to add. You can assume maybe what diameter bars, 16 mm diameter bar for the footing, assuming it will be 16 mm diameter, and they say clear cover should be 75 for this problem. So clear, maybe it's severe exposure, or whatever. So 75 mm. This problem has been assumed as 75. Minimum is 40. Should not go. Best thing is don't give less than 50 for clear cover in a footing. Here it's given 75. So the overall depth should be greater than 404 plus 16 by 2 plus 75, which is about 487. So provide 500 mm overall depth. Now question is this the end of the problem? It's still not the end of the problem. Okay. So what is required right now is I'm going to find out effective depth along both directions. Along x, okay, is so okay, it's not forget this effective depth. Okay, it's about 500 minus 75 minus 16 by 2. So what do I get? I get 75 25 417. So this is the effective depth that comes for this particular footing. Now next is check the maximum soil pressure. Now we are actually rechecking the soil pressure. Initially we have found some soil pressure. So we have found here, okay, some soil pressures we have found, and this has been calculated based on our 15% increase in. This has been found based on 15% increase in the for the backfill and the rate of the footing. But again, we want to recheck it because now we have given a certain depth for the footing. Okay, so it's a good idea to once again check whether service loads pressure are coming lesser than the SBC. So I say Q, so 1000 divided by 1.5 divided by 2 into 2.45. Now I'm actually going to add whatever are the actual pressures that we have got. Okay, so 24 is nothing but unit weight of, or maybe let me make it 25. Okay, so 25 is unit weight of concrete. The thickness of the slab footing is 0.5 meters, 500 mm. Okay, plus the weight of the soil, unit weight of soil I'm assuming is gamma soil, I'm assuming 18 kilonewton per meter cube. 18. So this, if you remember in the question I mentioned, the depth of the footing from the ground level should be 1.25 meters, and this is 0.5 meters. So the remaining part only you have soil sitting on top. So 1.25 minus 0.5. Okay, so these are the entire weights, okay, which are there. And in addition, you also have the moment 120 divided by 1.5. So everything is in kilonewtons and meters. Okay. So divided by into 2 into 2.45 square by 6. So all this together, if you check, it comes in fact exactly 201 kilonewton per meter square, which is, we are lucky, it is more or less the same value as the SBC. So our footing depth is okay, length is okay, breadth is okay. So all this have been confirmed. What is not being confirmed yet is what should I do here? Okay, what should this be? So for this I have to find out, as I told you before, there is, whenever you have a pressure, okay, you will have a bending moment. Sorry, this is wrong. Okay, so you will have a bending happening over here. So the moments have to be known to us in order to find the reinforcement. So design of flexural reinforcement. So here the only difficulty is in calculating the moment because you have a trapezoidal load. But once you calculate it, then it's just like designing a slab, one-way slab. Okay. So long span. So because I had to give reinforcement along both the directions, long direction, short direction, both of them. So here the projection is 975 mm. Okay, total width is which means it's in the other direction. So 2000 mm. Effective depth is 417 mm. And the Q is 0.2641 Newton per mm square at edge, and it's at the column face it is 0.216 Newton per meter square at column face. I think I didn't draw this thing yet. Basically, what I'm saying is, so at this part, right at the column face. So here it is 260. Okay. Anyway, that also can be calculated by, because it's a trapezium, you can calculate that value also. I didn't show it, but anyway. So this is what you have. So using this, I can find out the moment. Okay. Basically, at the column face, it is 0.216. No, so 216 into 2000 into 975 square by 2. Okay, because I told you, you're having, this is basically W into L square by 2. This 2000 is, it's that much depth you have that load, that much breadth you have that particular load. Okay, so the column, this is so if this is column face. Okay, so I have a moment, so I have load acting everywhere here. Okay, so this part tends to bend, no? So there's going to be a bending happening this way. So it's like a cantilever, which means it should be WL square by 2. But the breadth along which this load acts is B, 2000. Okay, so that's why it's the pressure is 0.216. So 0.216 times 1000 times the whatever this L square by 2. Okay, this L is only 975. Okay, so that. Okay, this is if I directly use the average value. I'm allowed to use it, or if I want to be more accurate, I can also do 0.2641 minus 0.2163 into 1 by 2 into 2000 into 975 square into 2 by 3. So this is if I am going to, if I'm just simply going to say that it's going to be a rectangle. Okay, and you're considering the whole thing as a rectangle, then you get this. If you want to be very simple, you can just use this. In fact, if I use this, I get, how much I get is, so 975 square by 2 into 2000 into 0.216. Okay, I get about 206 kilonewton meter. Okay, so if I just use this, I get 206 kilonewton meter. If I tend to be more accurate, okay, and I include this also as a trapezium, then the total becomes 236. Okay, so there's this certain small amount of error which comes if you ignore the trapezoidal part and if you go with what is present as the average. Okay, so if you use the average, I mean not the average, if you use the column phase, pressure and you just based on that alone, if you calculate the moment, you have a big error. Alternatively, what you could have done is instead say that you want to be conservative and you use the pressure at this location, which is 0.264. Okay, here it is at the column face, it is 216, at the edge it is 0.264. So if you use this and do it, or in other words 0.264 times 2000 into 975 square by 2. If I do this, I get 251. Okay, so when I do this, I get more than the accurate value. So this is conservative. And so if you do not want to use the big way of finding the moment, you are free to just take the largest value of your pressure, assume it to be uniform, and then calculate the moment. So you are allowed to do this. Okay, so anyway, moment has been found. Once the moment is found, you can, other procedures are the same. I am not going to go into too much detail. So basically you just, if you want, you can check the depth. Okay, you can do this 251 into 10 power 6 equals 0.138 FCK. You can do this and you can check whether this 500 depth which you have given, whether it is sufficient or not, you can check. Not 500, it's 417 no, effective depth. So you can check whether it's effective, if it's enough or not. But anyway, I'm not doing it because it's enough. I've seen that it's enough, so I'm not doing it. D you will choose as 2000. Okay, so and then again PT you can calculate based on this same what is that 50 FCK by FY into 1 minus root of 1 minus 4.598 MU by FCK BT square. The same formula you can use. And anyway, for this value of MU, if you use that same formula, you get 0.197. 0.197%. Okay, we assumed initially we assumed that it's going to be where did we assume? Here we assume that we may get a reinforcement of 0.25%. We ended up getting 0.197, so it's lesser than what we assumed, so it's okay. Okay, so this is lesser than 0.25, which was initially assumed. So therefore, it's, so we can just go ahead. We can give 0.197, and this is coming, since this is lesser, let us adopt whatever was more, 0.25%. This leads to an AST of 0.25 times 2000 times 417 by 100. This is about 2085 mm square, and we assume 16 mm bars. So if it's a 16 mm bar, we need 11 numbers. Okay, and the spacing, the length of that side is 2000 mm. So the spacing will be around 180 mm spacing will be there. Okay, you 2000 divided by 10 or 11 means you'll get around something like this. So 180 to 200 mm spacing, we can give the bars. The same thing can be done for short span. Okay, here the values are projection is 850. Width is 2450. And here what I'll do is I can use the same thing. Mu equals let's say 0.264 times 2450 into 850 square by 2 in order to be conservative. So this, if I do, I get 850 square by 2 into 2450 into 0.264. Get to 33. Okay. So once again, the same procedure can be followed. I can find it. You can use mu. I can use formula for PT. So PT for this I get 0.15%. Okay. So in this direction, you don't need to give 0.25. So here I can probably give the same 0.15 itself. Okay. So from this, so you can give either 0.15 or the same 0.25. If you want to be conservative, go ahead and give 0.25. Otherwise, you can give this 0.25. Anyway, whatever you do, so you'll finally get some reinforcement. So probably if I use 0.15, I will get. I mean, here in this problem, he has used a different diameter for the opposite direction, 12 mm bars, but you're allowed to use the same 16 mm also. So okay, so 0.15. So get 0.15 times 2450 times 417. 0.25 less out. So this is about 0.25 2450 into 417 divided by 100. This comes as 2554.
So PT is 0.15 or 0.25?
0.15 only, but you can use 0.15. 0.25 we had assumed 0.25 for one-way shear condition. Okay. Here we had assumed that here at this point we did not know what will be our PT, but we require PT to find tau c. So initially we assumed we might get PT of 0.25%, and we based on that we had actually calculated the value of tau c. From the value of tau c, we found out what the depth of the thickness of the slab footing should be. So at this point, so what it says, since I assume 0.25% here, at least along one of the directions I should get 0.25% reinforcement. Okay. So the reason why, so here it should definitely be 0.25 for this direction, because this is the same direction along which I measured the one-way shear. Okay, it is along the it is this short span thing only which I measured the one-way shear, and then I found the depth. So definitely along this span I should not be able to take 0.197. I should use 0.25, because if I do not use 0.25 and if I use 0.197, there is a risk that my one-way shear condition will get disturbed now. Okay, so in order to not disturb the one-way shear satisfaction, even though I get 0.197 for flexure, I retain 0.25 because this is what I had assumed for satisfying one-way shear. Okay, so in this case I still use 0.25. When you come to the short span, I calculate 0.15 to be the required percentage of reinforcement for the flexure. And from the one-way shear, I have not really assumed anything for short span. So I can actually use 0.15, but if I say that okay, here use 0.55, here use 0.25 because one-way shear was there. If I give you different conditions for different for one-way shear, I tell you something different. For long span flexure, I tell you something different. For short span flexure, if I tell you something different, if I give you 3 different things, you will get even more confused than what you are right now. Okay, so I do not want to do that. So that's why I said, since you had assumed 0.25 for one-way shear, use the same 0.25 for both the short span and also for the long span. Okay, this I said only to minimize confusion. Okay, but if you are clear, you can use 0.15. Okay, that is an intervention that I myself made. Okay. So again, if you use 16 mm bars, you will get about 13 bars will be needed. Okay, so you can space this 13 bars in any way that you want. Okay, so anyway, so when you draw it, you can. So now it's the time to draw what we got. So it was given to you in the question that the column has 6 numbers of this 25 mm bars. So that thing was given to you in the question. So therefore, I have to actually. So those bars from the column, they have to come all the way down, and they have to go like this. The reinforcement from the columns. So that is why I told the column reinforcement will not come into your calculation, but it will come into the detailings. Okay, it should not be this curved and all. Okay. Okay, so it can be there. Of course, if it's 6 bars, maybe one is there in the middle also. Okay, see, these are your column reinforcements. Then you have calculated your reinforcement along long and short span. So if this is the short span that I'm drawing, so the main reinforcement which I calculated for the short span. Actually, I mean, up this a bit. It looks like there's no clear cover at all. Okay, that seemed like there was no clear cover, so that's why I slightly changed it. Okay, so this is your, this may be 16, 13 version 2450 by. It's about 200 mm spacing. Okay, 16.5 at 200 center to center for satisfying this. Then for the other span, we found out 16 bars at 180 center to center. Okay. So that will be shown above this. So these are.
Sir,
what is?
B bars.
That's 13 bar, not B.
Oh, okay.
And this is your column reinforcement. I think it was given as 6 numbers of 25. Of course, there'll be some ties also in the column, but I've not said what is it and all. Of course, there'll be some ties. But anyway, that's not been mentioned to you anything. Okay. So anyway, so these things are there. Of course, dimensions will be known. So this is just a very rough way of showing the footing, and you can also show it in plan. If you may, I can just show it how it looks. Fabrication. So what page number is footings? Foundations 67. Okay. So this I'll close. I'll show you this. Again SP34, just to give you some better look into how to draw the detailing. So here we have, okay, so over here I see this is the section of the column. Okay, so whatever the column is, that you see over here that its reinforcement will be going at least for a length of LDT, the development length. At least for development length level, it should keep going into the bottom of your footing. Okay, the ties will be there. And many times you see here that this, you see that there is a sloping in the footing. I have not included slope in the problem which I did. Okay, it was a footing. It was a flat, equal thickness footing. But usually this is how it will be. It will be sloped. So when you're sloping it, you will have to, when doing the one-way shear and two-way shear check, you have to actually see that what is the depth at that particular location, and then you'll have to decide the depth. Okay, so that comes into the picture if you're going to give a slope to the footing. Okay, and just because the moment at the edge is 0, you cannot give 0 thickness at the edge. You cannot give simply some 2 or 3 centimeters as thickness. You cannot do that. So you have to, whatever be the case, you have to give at least 150 mm thickness at the edge. Okay. Okay. So generally, 80 is the cover. This is the not cover. This is your. They give a PCC layer below the footing. Okay. You see this 80 and a bracket generally, no. 80 and then generally. That generally refers to, it is a PCC layer, a plain cement concrete layer, which is given so that the footing is not directly in contact with raw soil. Okay, just to prevent it from directly resting on raw soil and to make the surface even and all those things, they give a PCC layer of 80 mm. 80 mm is minimum, but usually people give 150 mm or more than that. That much thickness of PCC is given, and then above that, this is given. Concrete cover is, at least I told you, it should be 50, that's mentioned here. And if you want to show the same thing on plan, so if you remember your two-way slab detailing, so I would have told you, just draw one line and say what the details along that line is, and draw one more line and say what the details along this line is. So just like how we draw the detailing for a two-way slab in plan, the same thing you can adopt for a footing also. Okay, and these other things are all different other types of footings. Okay, this is an unsymmetric footing where if you don't have enough space on one side, you may have to increase the other side, and that will cause uneven moments on the footing. That the design concept and all is a little bit more, so that and all I'm not going to tell anything about that. Combined footings, you'll be reading by yourself and doing a problem. So if you want to detail combined footings and all, you can just go through this and then you can do what you want. Okay. So this is footings. So mostly from evaluation point of view, you will be asked also go through circular isolated footings. The principles are same. Okay, except that instead of doing d into d, you'll have d square and pi d square and all. But otherwise, it's the same. But anyway, for your at least read through it. But from your testing evaluation point of view, you'll be asked rectangular isolated footings only. Okay, and you may be asked problems which have only axial load and no moments are there. So if there are no moments, it is just a subset of the problem which I have solved now. Meaning that wherever you have your pressure distribution at the base will not be a trapezium, it will be a perfect rectangle. So there's no need to calculate at d what is the pressure, at d by 2 what is the pressure. So no need for interpolation or anything, everywhere the pressure will be same. So that convenience is there if there is no moment. And of course, to decide the base footing size, again it is just p by a alone is there. Okay, and you can make it square. So therefore, it's easy to find the dimensions also. So everything becomes easy if it is only axial load. If there is axial load and moment, do it like how it was done today. So just one class will not make you very familiar with it. So you can just go through some more problems. You are following Krishna Raju book, right? What book do you read?
Yes, sir. Krishna Raju.
Okay, then that is good enough. So you can just go through some problems in that and be familiar. Okay, so this is the end of the syllabus and this is the end of my classes. So you can, so any doubts are there, you can ask.